This speaker is a specialist registrar at NHS UK. He is also an advanced disaster life support instructor and a dear friend. Dr. Jeffy Jacob, over to you.
Hi everyone, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, hi. Good evening, most dearest participants. My name is Dr. Jeffy Jacob. I used to be working as a consultant in emergency medicine at Believers Church Medical College Hospital. Right now, I'm working as a specialist registrar in accident and emergency at UK, London, Northwest University Hospital. Thank you, Jesus sir, for that wonderful introduction to United. I am really very happy and proud to be a part of United. So, my topic for the day is to take you through the definition and dynamics of disasters and to brief you all on pre-disaster paradigm. So the next 15 minutes I will be utilizing for that. Dr. Jeffy Joseph has already given you a small hindsight on what disaster is. So the definition of disaster has been different throughout the different times of medicine. It has only been recently that emergency medicine or the medical specialty has started thinking of including disasters as a end specialty or a subspecialty to the medicine branch itself. So, what is the what is the definition of disasters? So, disasters is any event with its consequences that can cause a sudden and unexpected disruption to an individual, a community, or society, which results in widespread damage, losses, and impacts that exceed the community's ability to cope. So basically, if you take just that last line, the operational definition would be anything where the resources are not enough to meet the needs. Wherever the needs exceed the resources, it can be termed as a disaster. So when we were taught about the basics of disaster in Believers, one of our faculty made a quip where he said that on a Sunday, when you're sitting at home, relaxing with your family, and a group of your extended family comes over and you don't have enough food for them in the fridge and all the shops nearby are closed, then that itself is a disaster. So basically, it is wherever your needs are exceeding your resources, you're having a disaster. Now, what are disaster dynamics? Disaster dynamics, again, it has got a definition. See, all these definitions have been taken from different parts of the literature. These are not very organized or specific to one. There are no international definitions as such. There are different levels that are being followed. So what I could come across was disaster dynamics. It usually refers to the complex interactions between natural and social forces that result in disasters. So these interactions can occur at multiple scales from the individual to the international and cosmic levels. So basically that itself is just an understanding of the dynamics is just an understanding of how disasters occur and evolve. And it involves many aspects. And these aspects are not common to all forms of disasters. So they primarily depend on the nature of disaster and the geography of the said disasters. That being said, Dr. Jiju had already mentioned in his talk that no two disasters are same. Even if it is, let us say, there are earthquake-prone areas in Southeast Asia, which are very, they have been dealing with this for such a long time. And one would think that it would be easy for them, or it would be comparatively foolproof for them to tackle such a disaster. But have you noticed the number of lives that are being lost and the extent to which the economy is being hit once a earthquake hits an area that has already been so much proficient in dealing with earthquakes? That is because no system is foolproof. So whatever system is made, is being designed, it is in a way it is designed to fail. No two disasters are same, and that is why in order and another thing that Dr. Jiju had put forth was most of the first responders in India, what we see in India. So basically, my experience with disasters started in my 10th standard when I volunteered to work during the tsunami in 2005. And then I have been trying my best to be a part of the social network and dealing with disasters prior to my MBBS. And once I did my medicine, once I was in the government part of the government medical team, I was involved in a lot of disaster responses at various levels. The latest being the 2018 floods and the 2020 COVID-19 in India. And so most of my experiences from within Kerala. So like Dr. Jiju said, in Kerala, most of the response is being done by the layperson. Okay, so that is where the disaster dynamics and the need for having an organized or a structural approach to disasters is needed. So this is just one of the forms of dynamics of disaster that I had come across that I'm bringing to your attention. So once a disaster strikes, there are two levels of response. There's an individual response where you try to secure your safety and provide first aid and secure supplies for to yourself and to the ones around you. Then there's a response and relief by the community, focusing on immediate intervention like search and rescue, security, food, water, shelter, taking care of sanitation, medical trauma care, and all. Once the short term response has been taken care of, see, it's not like the short term response stops here and then the long term response starts. No, each step in disaster is overlaps. So, following the short term response, we have the rehabilitation, where it is a part of resilience, where the restoration of basic services and functions are taken into account. Then there is a reconstruction where we try to get to full reception of services plus preventive measures, which can take up to years, depending on the extent of disaster that is stricken. Following that, we have mitigation. Mitigation is the step where we try to assess the risk that was involved and try to understand what all is needed in preventing another disaster, or trying to build up our resilience to the next sort of disaster that might hit us. Following which, we have preparedness. This goes on until the next disaster strikes and the cycle starts back again. Okay. So this slide basically just puts forth before you what all are involved in disaster management. So what is pre-disaster paradigm? So my topic, as I had told earlier, focuses on pre-disaster paradigm as well. Pre-disaster paradigm is another structured approach to dealing with disaster dynamics. So this has been brought up as a tool to try to remember and focus on the different steps of disaster dynamics. So it starts from, there is PRE, which stands for PRE. P stands for planning and practice, R for resilience, E for education and training. Similarly, you have disaster. So initially, it was just the disaster paradigm. And then having realized sorry about that, having realized the amount of time that one needs to spend in order to plan for these things, the pre part of the paradigm was brought into it. So what all do you plan for this thing? So this is not, this lecture is not an exclusive content of what pre-disaster paradigm is about. I'm just trying to give you an outlook of what it is. So in planning, again, it depends on the nature and the geography of the area that you're teaching it. So there is no point of teaching about tsunamis to a landlocked region which is not at all bounded by any ocean or water body. They are not at any risk of having a tsunami at them. Similarly, so basically, it depends upon the topography and the geography of the area that you are. So you have to identify what are the at-risk population, identify the stakeholders who all are going to be a part of planning and execution of these things, whether it is at the government level, whether it is the non-government officials, how much of a participation can public take place, and what is the role of internationally deemed stakeholders like the MSF, the Israel Defense, or the Help by Johns Hopkins, and all those things. Then develop a valid plan according to that, which is again not going to be foolproof, but we definitely try to make it as foolproof as possible. And once the plan is in place, then we focus our majority of the time on training and education, exercise and drills. The more, the better, and then plan a review on that. So uh, this is just for the health care system people who are in there. So what does planning and practice do with what has it got to do with the healthcare system? So that is where the two terms search capacity and search capability comes in. So search capacity basically is how do you search means what is excess. Like for example, you have a capacity to do something, and if you're overrunning, how do you manage it? So that is what search capacity takes care of. And search capability. So where do you place the patient? The physical space where you're going to space the patient's search capacity, and how you're going to take care of them, how you're going to deal with the extra people. That is the search capability. So search capability basically focuses on the manpower and other logistics that you have with them. So this is just for the health system. So this comes in the treatment and triage part of the disaster paradigm. So plans again must have follow legal and ethical principles. Most of the time, the ethical principles are the that are usually put at test because many of the responders might not be from the local areas and might not be well aware with the local practices. So ethics is something that has to be really thought about. Then we should be guided by acceptable scientific and medical practices, because as long as we do not have, it is difficult to have a hard and fast black and white thing for each area for each disaster. So we go by acceptable things that are available, that are being taught to us, and then we have the plans must definitely aid decision making as well. So what is resilience? So that we took care of the planning part. Now R is for resilience. Resilience is just the ability of individuals and the communities to adapt and overcome adversity due to disaster. That is, it is just a process by which the community tries to get back to as much close to the normalcy that they were in before the disaster struck. Then we have education and training, which is really essential to the workforce and community. Education training has definitely is to be competency based. It has to be standardized because, like Dr. Jiju reminded, most of the people who come into it are not trained personals or not disaster trained personnel. Even these days, when you have a lot of disaster trained people coming in, they are not enough to execute the entirety of the work that is being taken over there. So you definitely end up putting in charge many civilians who have no too little amount of training. That is why you need training measures which can be taught to civilians in a very short period of time and which can be executed in a well-mannered format. And then you have to definitely set performance expectations. So that takes care of the pre of the disaster paradigm. Now the disaster paradigm, which has been in place for some time, starts with D, detection. Detection is you have to detect whether the disaster has actually taken place. So is a disaster actually present? So what has happened? What is needed now, and whom should I call? So that takes part of the detection, which is the smallest phase of the entire pre-disaster paradigm, is the detection. So once you are sure a disaster is in place, then the disaster paradigm has to be set in motion, which starts with incident management. So and this is just a screen which I put where which shows you, which showcases how it is incident is managed. So you will have a incident management cell usually at the site of the disaster and one away from the site of the disaster as well. And it depends on what level the disaster has taken. If it's a state level disaster, it will be in the state revenue headquarters. If it's a district level disaster, it will be in the district revenue headquarters. And if it's a local disaster, it will be in a safe place, which is out of the red and the hot and warm zones. In the cold zone would be the incident management where it will be taken. One important thing that has to be paid close attention is the communication aspect, where information sharing has to be very effective. It has to be timely and accurate. I would like to repeat that again. All information shared has to be timely and accurate. And what Kerala has been practicing for the last 5 years. So what Kerala has been practicing for the last 5 years is having one voice and one message. So which is a very good model for all the disaster planning activities. Then we come to S, which stands for safety and security. Safety and security, basically, this is the way that things are prioritized. First is definitely self and the team. We should ensure that the area that we are going into is safe for us and the team to go into. Second priority would be the uninjured public, to bring them out of harm's way. Third, then we take care of the casualties. How to triage the casualties, I'm coming to that. And fourth, we have to make sure further damage to the environment is not in place. After safety, we look at, we have to assess the hazards. We have to recognize the likely causes of safety and security concerns. For example, if a building has collapsed and you're going near the building, then you have to try to identify if there are further chances of the getting collapsed further, or there is any other potential dangers hazards nearby it. And you have to assess the risk of causing additional casualty. Next, you have to look at the support. What support basically means the logistics. It is the logistics and disaster response. What do I have and what is needed? Definitely, what do I have will be much lesser than what is needed, because that is the definition of disaster. If you need 50 ambulances to take 50 people at the same time from the site of disaster to the hospital, you will have one ambulance, and you will have to triage who goes first in that ambulance. So where is the support? So in that example, the hospital that the patients are being taken to, where is it located? When will the remaining support arrive? And what if it does not arrive in time, or what if it does not arrive at all? All those are the questions that support looks at. Then comes the triage and treatment, which is the first step, kind of where medical faculty is completely involved in. Completely, I would say completely involved in. So disaster triage definitely works with a large number of casualties. It has to be very much ethical. It has to be easily performed, because most of the time, like I told, you would not have enough people medically trained to go and do a proper triage over there. So there has to be a system that is developed, that makes it easy for the layperson to understand and learn the triage system, and support the medical people in triaging the persons. Definitely, the priority is both the treatment and transport. You have to treat the emergency what all you can over there at the site, and transport them in the order of priority to the nearest health facility. And it has to be standardized. So there are a lot of things that has come up. For example, so I'll just take another 2 minutes to go over it. For example, there is a salt triage. And till when does the treatment continues? The treatment continues till all the casualties have been transported from scene, or available resources have been exhausted. Then comes E, which is the penultimate step of the pre-disaster paradigm. E is basically evacuation. You have to relocate the yourself, the team, the public, and those have been affected, the casualties. You have to get them to a point of safety, and then you have to worry about how and when transport is available. And you have to also definitely look at relocating the people who are not directly involved now, but who are at a high chance of getting involved in the very near future. Then we have the recovery phase, which is the last step of this thing, which is usually the one that takes the longest time. It is the first step of the recovery phase would be the after action review, which starts as soon as possible. It is basically structured analysis of disaster response. So in the later years, in the recent years, the after action review is a very detailed one, on which a lot of papers and researches are made possible. It is done to identify the gaps and weaknesses in the current response that we did. Recovery aims at relief and rehabilitation and restoration of the community back to where it was before the disaster struck. So this is what I try to take you all in the last 15 to 17 minutes. So this is how we go about the disaster dynamics. I had seen a couple of people raising their hands, but I would leave that to the moderators for discussion, maybe towards the end of the session. Yeah. Thank you so much for your patient listening. Good day.